The rancher who saved the outlaw's daughter and lost his heart.
Miss Cross, can you hear me?
The winter of 1887 arrived early in the Wyoming territory. Snow covered the endless Divide Mountains weeks before anyone expected it. The cattle trails disappeared beneath white drifts. Rivers froze solid. Even the wolves seemed quieter than usual. Most people stayed close to town. But Nathan Hale was not most people. The 36-year-old rancher lived alone on a spread nearly 20 miles from the nearest settlement of Iron Creek. His life followed the same rhythm every day. Feed the horses, check the fences, repair whatever the wind had broken, eat supper alone, sleep, repeat. Nathan had spent 10 years building his ranch after losing his family during a fever outbreak. Since then, he trusted hard work more than people. The mountains had become his only companions. On a bitter December evening, Nathan was returning from the northern pasture when he noticed something unusual. Fresh tracks. Not horse tracks. Not cattle tracks. Human tracks. Small ones. They crossed the frozen creek and disappeared into the pine forest. Nathan frowned. No child should have been wandering through those mountains alone. Especially not in weather that could kill a grown man. He guided his horse toward the trees. The sky darkened quickly. Snow began falling harder. The tracks became difficult to follow. Then he saw her. A young woman collapsed beside a fallen pine. She couldn't have been more than 22. Her dark hair was covered with snow. Her coat was torn. One boot was missing, and she was unconscious. Nathan immediately jumped from his horse. "Miss?" No response. He knelt beside her. Her skin felt ice cold. If he had arrived 30 minutes later, she would have frozen to death. Nathan wrapped her in his wool blanket and carefully lifted her onto the saddle. The ride home took nearly an hour. The storm became worse with every mile. By the time they reached the ranch house, both rider and horse were covered in snow. Nathan carried the young woman inside and laid her near the fireplace. He placed fresh logs on the fire. Then he heated water. For several hours he worked silently, slowly, patiently. The color began returning to her face. Near midnight, her eyes finally opened. Fear flashed across them instantly. She tried to sit up. "Easy," Nathan said. "Where am I?" "My ranch. Why?" "You were freezing to death." The woman stared at him suspiciously, as if she wasn't sure whether
Easy
to thank
now,
him
you're
or
safe.
run. Nathan stepped back.
You're
"You
safe
can leave
in my
the morning
cabin
if you want." She relaxed slightly. "What is your name?" he asked. For several seconds she hesitated. Then she answered. "Elena Cross." Something about the pause bothered him. It sounded like a false name, but Nathan didn't press the issue. Not yet. Outside, the storm raged through the darkness. Inside, neither of them realized their lives had just changed forever. The next morning brought even worse news. The snowfall had blocked every trail leading out of the valley. No one would be traveling anywhere for several days. Elena seemed troubled by that information. Very troubled. Nathan noticed she kept glancing toward the windows, toward the mountains, as if she expected someone to appear, or feared someone might. For 3 days, the storm trapped them together. During those days, Nathan learned several things. Elena was intelligent. She worked hard. She could ride. She could shoot. And she knew far more about surviving in the wilderness than most frontier women. Yet she revealed almost nothing about her past. Whenever Nathan asked where she came from, her answers remained vague. Whenever he asked about family, she changed the subject. The mystery only deepened. Then, on the 4th morning, everything changed. Nathan stepped outside and found 3 armed riders approaching the ranch. Their leader wore a black duster coat. A silver badge gleamed on his chest. United States Marshal. Nathan immediately sensed trouble. The riders stopped near the barn. The marshal dismounted. "Morning," he said. Nathan nodded. "What brings federal lawmen all the way out here?" "We're looking for a young woman." Nathan remained expressionless. "What kind of woman?" The marshal removed a folded poster. He handed it over. Nathan looked at the sketch. His stomach tightened. The drawing wasn't perfect, but it was close enough. It was Elena, wanted for questioning, associated with the notorious outlaw Elena Cross, reward offered for information leading to her capture. Nathan slowly lowered the paper. The marshal watched him carefully. "You seen her?" Nathan's answer would change everything, because for the first time in years, he found himself protecting someone he barely knew, and he wasn't entirely sure why. Maybe it was because he had saved her life. Maybe it was because he saw loneliness in her eyes that matched his own. Or maybe it was because his heart had already begun making decisions his mind couldn't understand. Nathan looked directly at the marshal. Then he spoke. No. The lie came easier than he expected, and the consequences would soon follow. Months later, the entire Wyoming territory would be talking about the rancher who stood against lawmen, bounty hunters, and powerful businessmen for the woman he loved. But on that cold winter morning, Nathan Hale knew only one thing. The mysterious stranger sleeping inside his house was worth protecting, no matter the cost. And before spring arrived, that choice would test both their courage and their hearts in ways neither could imagine. If you enjoyed this Wild West romance story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps bring more unforgettable frontier love stories to life. Turn on notifications so you never miss the next adventure from the American frontier. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story. The marshal studied Nathan's face for several long seconds. Snow drifted across the ranch yard between them. The wind howled through the fence posts. Finally, the lawman nodded. All right. Nathan kept his expression calm. If I see anyone matching that description, I'll send word. We'd appreciate that. The marshal turned toward his horse. Then he paused. If she comes through here, be careful. Nathan said nothing. The marshal continued. Elena Cross wasn't some ordinary outlaw. I've heard the name. Then you've heard enough. The marshal climbed into the saddle. People around him tend to get hurt. Moments later, the three riders disappeared down the snowy trail. Nathan watched until they vanished from sight. Then he returned to the house. Elena stood near the window. She had clearly heard everything. You lied for me. Nathan removed his gloves. Looks that way. Why? I haven't decided. Her eyes narrowed. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Elena quietly sat beside the fireplace. The flames danced across her face. For the first time since arriving, she looked frightened. Not cautious, not guarded, truly frightened. Nathan sat across from her. Who are you really? She stared into the fire. My name is Elena Cross. Nathan remained silent. My father was Elena Cross. The room suddenly felt smaller. Everyone in Wyoming territory knew that name. Elena Cross had spent nearly 20 years robbing payroll shipments, stagecoaches, and corrupt railroad agents. To some people, he was a criminal. To others, he was a legend. Either way, federal lawmen had hunted him for years. And where is he now? Nathan asked. Elena lowered her eyes. Dead. The answer surprised him. When? 6 months ago. She swallowed hard. He was killed during a gunfight outside Silver Pass. Nathan nodded slowly. The story matched rumors he had heard. But if he's dead, why are marshals looking for you? A shadow crossed her face. Because someone wants something my father left behind. What? I don't know. Nathan frowned. You don't know? She shook her head. Before he died, he gave me a small journal. What's in it? I've never been able to figure that out. Nathan leaned forward. Show me. Elena hesitated. Then she reached beneath her coat. A worn leather notebook appeared low. Its pages were filled with strange numbers, symbols, and unfinished sketches. Nathan flipped through several pages. Nothing made sense. Not a single word. Just coded notes. Looks like a puzzle. Exactly. My father told me to protect it. Did he say why? No. Nathan handed it back. And people are willing to kill for this? Apparently. Silence filled the room. Outside, snow continued falling. Inside, the mystery deepened. The weather finally cleared 3 days later. For the first time in nearly a week, sunlight touched the valley. Nathan saddled 2 horses. Elena watched from the porch. Where are we going? Into town. She immediately looked uneasy. I don't think that's a good idea. You need supplies. And if someone recognizes me? Nathan handed her a hat. Then we'll deal with it. She stared at him. You make everything sound simple. It usually isn't. For the first time, she smiled. A genuine smile. Nathan found himself smiling back. Neither noticed, but something had changed between them. Something neither wanted to name yet. Iron Creek bustled with activity despite the snow. Wagons crowded the streets. Children raced between storefronts. The smell of fresh bread drifted from the bakery. For Elena, it felt strange, normal, peaceful, almost like another life. She and Nathan stopped outside the general store. As they approached the entrance, a familiar voice called out, Nathan Hale. Nathan turned. A tall man stood across the street, well-dressed, confident, clean-shaven. His expensive coat immediately separated him from everyone else. Nathan's expression hardened. Elena noticed instantly. "You know him?" Nathan nodded. "Unfortunately." The man crossed the street. "Been a long time." "Not long enough." The stranger laughed. His eyes shifted toward Elena. "And who might this be?" Nathan answered before she could. "A friend." The man's smile widened. "Interesting." Elena disliked him immediately. There was something cold behind his charm, something dangerous. After a moment, the stranger tipped his hat. "Good seeing you again, Nathan." Then he walked away. Elena waited until he disappeared. Who was that? Nathan's jaw tightened. Victor Langley. The railroad owner? Part owner. Even Elena recognized the name. Victor Langley controlled thousands of acres throughout the territory. He was rich, influential, and rumored to be ruthless. "He doesn't seem to like you." Nathan laughed softly. "That's because I stopped him from stealing land from 3 ranching families." Elena glanced back toward the street. Victor Langley had vanished. But somehow she felt certain they hadn't seen the last of him. That evening, her suspicion proved correct. A rider arrived after sunset. He carried no badge, no uniform, no identifying marks. Only a message. The man handed Nathan an envelope, then immediately left. Nathan opened it beside the fireplace. His face darkened. "What is it?" Elena asked. Nathan handed her the letter. The message contained only one sentence. "I know who she is. And I know what she's carrying." VL. Elena felt her stomach tighten. Victor Langley. Nathan stood slowly. "What does he want?" Elena already knew the answer. "The journal." Nathan nodded. "Which means he probably knows what's inside." A chill passed through the room, because if Victor Langley knew the secret hidden within Elias Cross's journal, then they were already in far more danger than either of them realized. And somewhere beyond the mountains, powerful men were beginning to move. Men willing to kill. Men willing to betray. Men willing to destroy anyone standing between them and whatever secret Elias Cross had taken to his grave. Nathan looked toward the dark window, then toward Elena. For the first time, he understood exactly what protecting her might cost, and deep down, he knew he would pay that price anyway, no matter how high it became. If you're enjoying this frontier romance adventure, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps keep these Wild West love stories alive. Turn on notifications so you never miss the next chapter of Nathan and Elena's journey. Called softly inside the ranch house. Outside, darkness covered the valley. Nathan sat at the kitchen table with the journal open before him. Elena sat across from him. Between them lay dozens of pages filled with strange symbols, numbers, and sketches. For hours they studied every detail. Neither spoke much. Neither made progress. Finally, Nathan rubbed his eyes. "We're missing something," Elena sighed. "I've been looking at those pages for 6 months. There has to be a pattern." "My father loved puzzles." Nathan turned another page, then stopped. His eyes narrowed. "What is it?" Nathan pointed toward a small drawing. A mountain. Below it was another sketch, a river, then a third, a broken pine tree. Elena leaned closer. "I've seen those before." "Where?" she thought for a moment, then suddenly sat upright. "The North Fork." Nathan looked at her. "My father took me there once when I was a child. You recognize the landmarks?" "I think so." Hope appeared in her eyes for the first time. Nathan immediately stood. "Then we're going." "Now?" "At first light." The following morning dawned clear and cold. Fresh snow sparkled across the valley. Nathan saddled the horses while Elena packed supplies. By sunrise they were riding north. The journey took most of the day. The mountains grew steeper, the forest thicker. By late afternoon they reached a narrow canyon. Elena stopped her horse. "I know this place." Nathan looked around. The canyon walls rose high above them. Ancient pine trees covered the slopes. Everything felt strangely quiet. Too quiet. Elena pointed ahead. The river should be around that bend. They continued carefully. Minutes later the frozen river appeared. Nathan immediately noticed something. A massive pine tree, split in half, exactly like the drawing. Elena smiled. "We found it." For the first time the journal was beginning to make sense, but neither noticed the distant rider watching them from the ridge above. Miles away, Victor Langley lowered his spyglass. A cold smile crossed his face. They found it. One of his men stepped forward. "What now?" Victor mounted his horse. Now we let them do the hard work." The man frowned. "You don't want us to take the journal?" "Not yet." Victor looked toward the mountains. "Elena Cross was too clever. You think the journal leads somewhere? I know it does." The railroad baron smiled again. "And soon Nathan Hale will lead us straight to it." Meanwhile, Nathan and Elena followed the river deeper into the canyon. The journal's drawings matched the landscape perfectly. Every turn revealed another landmark. Every page brought them closer. As evening approached, they discovered the final sketch, a waterfall, frozen solid, towering above the canyon floor. Elena pulled the journal from her saddlebag. Her hands trembled. "This is it." Nathan studied the page. At the bottom of the drawing was a symbol, one he had never noticed before, a small X, directly beneath the waterfall. Together they approached the ice-covered cliff. For nearly an hour they searched. Nothing. No cave, no hidden entrance, no clue. Then Elena slipped. Her boot struck a rock. A hollow sound echoed through the canyon. Nathan immediately turned. "Wait." He knelt beside the stone. Then brushed away snow. The rock wasn't part of the mountain. It was covering something. Together they pushed. The stone shifted. A narrow opening appeared behind it. Elena stared in disbelief. "My father." Nathan lit a lantern. The cave beyond stretched into darkness. Cold air drifted outward. For several seconds neither moved. Then Nathan stepped forward. "Stay close." The cave wound deep into the mountain. At the end stood an old wooden chest. Dust covered every surface. No one had touched it for years. Elena slowly approached. Her heart pounded. Nathan lifted the lid. Inside were stacks of documents, land deeds, maps, letters, and beneath them all, gold. A lot of gold. Elena gasped. Nathan stared silently. This wasn't an outlaw's treasure. It was something far more dangerous. Because many of the documents carried signatures, official signatures, government officials, railroad executives, powerful businessmen, including one name, Victor Langley. Nathan's expression darkened. "What is it?" He handed her a document. Elena read the first page, then the second. The color drained from her face. The papers revealed decades of corruption, illegal land seizures, bribery, fraud. Entire ranching communities cheated out of their property, families ruined, lives destroyed, and Victor Langley had been involved in all of it. Suddenly everything made sense. The journal, the pursuit, the threats. Victor wasn't searching for gold, he was searching for evidence. Evidence capable of destroying him. They spent the night inside a nearby hunting cabin. Neither slept much. The discovery had changed everything. The next morning they prepared to leave. But when Nathan opened the cabin door, his hand froze. Footprints, fresh footprints, dozens of them. Surrounding the cabin. Elena stepped beside him. Her face paled. "We're not alone." A voice echoed through the trees. "No." Victor Langley emerged from the forest. Armed men followed behind him. At least 15. Rifles, shotguns, revolvers. The cabin was completely surrounded. Victor smiled. "Good morning." Nathan stepped outside. "What do you want?" Victor laughed. "You already know." His eyes shifted toward Elena. "Hand over the documents." "No." The smile vanished. Victor's voice became cold. "You have one chance." Nathan glanced toward the armed men, then back at Victor. His answer never changed. "No." For several seconds silence hung in the air. Then Victor nodded slowly. Pity. His men raised their rifles, and Nathan realized the fight for their future had finally begun. But standing beside Elena, he also realized something else. Somewhere along the journey, protecting her had become more than a promise, more than responsibility, more than loyalty. He loved her, and if necessary, he would risk everything to keep her safe, even his life. If you're enjoying this epic Wild West romance adventure, please like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. Your support helps bring more unforgettable frontier stories to life. Turn on notifications and join us for the next chapter as Nathan and Elena face their greatest challenge yet. The forest fell silent. Even the wind seemed to stop. Nathan stood in front of Elena. Victor Langley's men kept their rifles trained on the cabin. No one moved. No one blinked. The tension felt like a stretched rope ready to snap. Victor adjusted his gloves. "You've caused me a great deal of trouble, Nathan." Nathan remained calm. "You did that yourself." Several of the gunmen exchanged nervous glances. Victor's smile disappeared, still as stubborn as ever. Nathan said nothing. Victor slowly stepped forward. "You know what's funny?" "What?" For years, people thought Elena Cross was a criminal. Victor spread his arms, but the truth is, he was collecting evidence. Elena frowned. My father knew about you. Victor laughed softly. Unfortunately, the railroad magnate's eyes hardened. He should have minded his own business. For a moment, genuine anger flashed across Elena's face. He spent years helping families you cheated. Victor shrugged. And look where it got him. Nathan noticed Elena's hands clench. He quietly touched her arm. A reminder. Stay calm. Stay alive. Victor noticed the gesture. His eyes narrowed. So it's true. Nathan's expression didn't change. What is? The rumors. There are no rumors. Victor smiled coldly. The words hung in the air. Elena looked toward Nathan. Nathan looked toward Victor. Neither answered. Victor chuckled. I'll take that as confirmation. The railroad baron sighed dramatically. Love has always made people foolish. Then his voice turned hard. Now hand over the documents. Nathan's answer remained unchanged. No. Victor's patience finally broke. He raised a hand. Several gunmen stepped forward. The situation had become deadly. Then suddenly, a gunshot echoed across the valley. Everyone froze. One of Victor's men fell from his horse. Another shot followed. Then another. The forest exploded with chaos. Victor spun around. What's happening? Riders emerged from the trees, a dozen of them, then 20, then more. Ranchers, farmers, settlers, men and women from communities throughout the territory. Nathan immediately recognized several faces. The Carter brothers, old Samuel Briggs, Maria Ortega, people Victor had spent years trying to destroy, people Nathan had helped defend. Victor stared in disbelief. Impossible. Nathan smiled slightly. No. More riders appeared. Victor's numerical advantage vanished almost instantly. The railroad magnate suddenly realized something. For years he had used money to buy loyalty. Nathan had earned loyalty, and there was a difference, a very important difference. The ranchers surrounded the clearing. Victor's men grew nervous. Several lowered their weapons. Others backed away. No one wanted a battle they couldn't win. Victor looked around. His confidence disappeared. You're making a mistake. Samuel Briggs rode forward. No. The elderly rancher pointed toward Victor. We made the mistake years ago when we trusted you. More voices joined him. Angry voices. Determined voices. Voices that had been silent for far too long. Victor suddenly found himself alone, for the first time in years, and he hated it. 3 days later, federal marshals arrived. This time they weren't looking for Elena. They were looking for Victor Langley. The evidence hidden by Elena Cross proved overwhelming. Every document, every signature, every illegal transaction, everything. Victor's empire began collapsing almost immediately. Investigations spread across the territory. Corrupt officials resigned. Stolen land was returned. Families finally received justice. For many people, it felt like a new beginning. Spring arrived slowly in Wyoming. Snow melted from the mountains. Grass returned to the valleys. Rivers flowed freely once more. Life moved forward. Yet one important question remained unanswered. Elena stood beside the fence overlooking Nathan's ranch. The sunset painted the sky gold and crimson. It was beautiful, but not nearly as beautiful as the woman Nathan couldn't stop thinking about. He approached quietly. She smiled when she saw him. I was wondering when you'd come out here. Nathan leaned against the fence. You seem deep in thought. I am. About what? Elena looked toward the horizon. Leaving. The word struck him harder than expected. Nathan felt his stomach tighten. Leaving? She nodded. The danger is over. He remained silent. My father is gone. Her voice softened. The journal is gone. She looked down. I don't really have a reason to stay. Nathan suddenly realized something. He had faced armed outlaws, blizzards, wild animals, powerful businessmen. None of them had frightened him as much as this moment. Because for the first time he might lose something that truly mattered. Elena turned toward him. Say something. Nathan swallowed, then finally spoke. I don't want you to leave. Her eyes widened slightly. The words came easier now. I didn't want to admit it. He smiled nervously. Truth is, I probably knew weeks ago. Elena's heart raced. Nathan continued. When I found you in the snow. A small laugh escaped her. That quickly? Maybe not that quickly. They both smiled. Then Nathan grew serious again. I love you, Elena. The world seemed to stop. The wind, the sounds of the ranch, everything. Only those 4 words remained. For several seconds, Elena couldn't speak. Tears filled her eyes. Not tears of sadness, tears of relief. because she had been carrying the same feelings for months, and now she no longer had to hide them. "I love you too." Nathan's smile was unlike anything she had ever seen. Warm, honest, real, the kind of smile only happiness could create. As the sun disappeared behind the mountains, he gently took her hand, and for the first time in many years, neither of them felt alone. 1 year later. The entire valley gathered near the small white church outside Iron Creek. Wildflowers covered the hills. Children laughed beneath the spring sunshine. Friends and neighbors filled every seat. At the front stood Nathan Hale, waiting, smiling. Then the church doors opened. Elena appeared. The room seemed brighter the moment she entered. Nathan couldn't look away. Neither could she. A year earlier, a snowstorm had brought a stranger to his doorstep. Now she was walking toward him, toward their future, toward the life they would build together. The preacher smiled, the guests smiled, and somewhere beyond the mountains, a new chapter began. Not one written by fear or loss or secrets, but by love, the strongest force either of them had ever known. If you're enjoying this Wild West romance adventure, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps these frontier love stories reach more viewers around the world. Turn on notifications and join us for the emotional final chapter of Nathan and Elena's unforgettable journey. Final part. 5 years later. Summer sunlight bathed the Wyoming Valley in gold. The ranch looked different now, larger, stronger, alive. New barns stood where old sheds once leaned against the wind. Fresh fences stretched across green pastures. Hundreds of cattle grazed peacefully beneath the distant mountains. What had once been a lonely ranch had become a thriving home. And at the center of it all stood Nathan and Elena Hale, together, exactly where they were meant to be. Nathan stepped out of the barn carrying a saddle. Before he could take 2 steps, a small voice shouted across the yard, "Papa!" A young boy came running toward him, 6 years old. Dark hair, bright eyes, and enough energy to keep the entire ranch awake. Nathan laughed as the boy crashed into him. "Easy there, Caleb. Can I ride Thunder today?" Nathan looked toward the horse, then toward his son. "We've discussed this." Caleb groaned dramatically. "I'm old enough." "You're 6. I'm almost 7. Nathan smiled. "That's still 6. The boy sighed. Life was clearly unfair, at least according to him. Another voice called from the porch, "Leave your father alone." Elena appeared carrying a basket of fresh bread. The years had changed many things, but not the warmth in her eyes, or the smile that still made Nathan forget whatever he had been thinking. Caleb immediately ran toward her. "Mama, tell him I'm old enough." Elena raised an eyebrow. "Are you?" "Yes." "No!" "Mama!" Nathan laughed, Elena laughed, and Caleb realized he had once again lost the argument. The valley had changed over the years. Many families returned after Victor Langley's downfall. New businesses opened in Iron Creek, schools expanded, farms prospered, the territory flourished. Justice had not solved every problem. Life on the frontier never became easy, but people finally had something they had lacked for years. Opportunity, hope, a future. The evidence hidden by Elena Cross had changed more lives than anyone could have imagined. Even after his death, he had managed to expose the corruption that threatened countless families. For that reason alone, Elena often visited his grave. Not because she missed the outlaw people believed him to be, but because she remembered the father he had truly been. Complicated, flawed, protective, and ultimately willing to sacrifice everything for what was right. One afternoon, Nathan and Elena rode together toward the ridge overlooking the valley. It had become their favorite place. From there they could see everything. The ranch, the river, the town, the mountains, their entire world. The same world that had once seemed so uncertain. Now it felt full of promise. They stopped beneath a large pine tree. The breeze moved gently through the branches. For a while neither spoke. They simply enjoyed the view. Finally Elena smiled. "Do you remember the day we met?" Nathan laughed softly. "You mean the day I nearly froze trying to save a stubborn stranger?" Elena nudged his shoulder. "I wasn't stubborn." Nathan looked at her. "You absolutely were." She laughed. "Fair enough." Silence returned. Comfortable silence, the kind shared only by people who know each other completely. Nathan stared across the valley. "It's strange. What is? If someone had told me that day what my life would become." He shook his head. I never would have believed them. Elena reached for his hand. Neither would I. They sat together watching the sun drift lower in the sky. Golden light spread across the land, the same kind of light that had filled so many important moments of their journey. The rescue, the discoveries, the battles, the promises, the wedding. Every step had led here, to this moment, to this life, to each other. As evening approached, they returned to the ranch. Caleb raced across the yard to greet them. Behind him came a little girl with Elena's smile and Nathan's determination. 4-year-old Rose Hale. She immediately wrapped her arms around Elena. "Mama!" Elena lifted her into her arms. "Hello, sweetheart." Rose pointed toward the house. "Grandpa Samuel is here." Nathan smiled. Samuel Briggs had practically adopted their family years ago. The old rancher now visited whenever he could. Inside the house, friends and neighbors filled the dining room. Laughter echoed through the walls. Food covered the tables. Stories filled the air. Looking around the room, Nathan felt something he had once believed impossible. Gratitude. Years earlier he had lived alone, convinced that loneliness was simply part of life. Now he was surrounded by people who cared about him, a wife he adored, children he loved beyond words, friends who felt like family. Everything had changed. Because one winter evening he chose to help a stranger, and that stranger changed his life forever. Later that night, after everyone had gone home, Nathan and Elena stood together on the porch. Stars filled the Wyoming sky. The mountains rested peacefully beneath the moonlight. The ranch was quiet. The children were asleep. The world felt still. Nathan wrapped an arm around Elena. She leaned against him. For several minutes neither spoke. There was nothing left to say. Some stories end with dramatic battles. Others end with great victories. But the best stories end with something much simpler. A home, a family, a future, a love that survives every storm. Nathan looked toward the mountains where he had once found a frightened young woman lost in the snow. Then he looked at the woman beside him and smiled. Because after everything they had endured, they had found exactly what they were searching for. Not treasure, not justice, not revenge, each other. And sometimes that is the greatest ending of all. The end. Thank you for joining Nathan and Elena's unforgettable Wild West romance journey. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us create more emotional frontier adventures filled with love, courage, and hope. Leave a comment below and tell us your favorite moment from the story. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss the next epic Wild West romance. Until next time, thank you for watching, and may your trails always lead you home.
Yeah. This cold north wind, always at my back. Another shadow falling on a worn out track. But your eyes, they're like a hearth against the drift. My salvation came in this unlikely gift. Two lost souls finding grace, yeah, in this frozen, broken place.
The mountain ridge is turning cold and gray. We're running hard, trying to find another way.
In Tunzerm 765 Fung, I saw the truth in your eyes. Beneath the law, beneath the winter skies. They call it sin, they call it breaking the line. But I'd trade it all just to keep you mine. The winter wind howls your name. That marshal's riding hard through the snow. He sees a wanted poster, a number and a frame, but I just see the fire down below. In the shadow of the timber pine, this shelter and this moment's mine. Let him come and read the lawman's line. My code is truer, your hand fits in mine. Your hand fits in mine, yeah. Frost on the collar, law on my trail. A mountain storm, a love to prevail. Those riders are coming, the shadows grow long, but in your arms, this is where I belong. We'll ride through the canyon, a brand new start, with the Cold Ridge Redemption for a hunter's heart. Cold Ridge Redemption. Saw you wrapped up in the snowdrifts, keep a whispered prayer from a slumber deep. That lantern's glow cut through the coming night. I found my forever in that golden light. Your frozen heart became my only hearth, the only piece of hallowed ground on this whole earth. I'll protect you from the gale and all its harm, and keep you sheltered here inside my arms. Inside my arms. Saw the lantern burning in the snow. Your tired eyes told me where to go. Now the ridgeline holds the coming night, but they can't take you from my sight. This cabin's ours, this shelter's true. I'll face down hell to stand with you. Let 'em ride on through the wind and cold. Let 'em ride on through the wind and cold. The lantern flickers, keeping the mountain night at bay. A posse shadow stretches on the trail where we lay. I see that secret burning cold behind your gaze, while the snow buries the tracks of all our yesterday. In Twanzum 707, we're just a ghost in the pine, but I'll gamble every breath to make your danger mine. Yeah, I'll risk it all just to keep the shadows fine. Snow comes down, a wanted sound, wrapped up tight in my arms tonight. The world outside can fade away. Right here is where you'll always stay. You're safe with me. You're safe with me.